Hello, everybody. Good night. And thank you for hanging in there as I was getting the call started. But for some reason, it wasn't really letting me do what I needed to do to get started. So I just want to say thank you so much on this lovely Thursday night to everybody for joining me today. And I am very curious to know what you guys are wondering about Module 2, how you've been doing, how you're doing during this core week of your detox. I simply cannot wait to know what's going on. So there should be, let me see over here. I don't know if this is actually, you can hear me or not. There we go. I think that's right. Okay. But there is a chat box for Facebook right underneath the video that you should see. And if you want to go ahead and put your questions there, you can go ahead and do that. And if not, if for some reason you can't get that to work, then you can also go ahead and email me whatever questions you have. So go ahead and do that. And I will get started with a few questions that I have gotten, which basically the questions that I got this week are so good. They cover absolutely everything from this module. So this is exciting because I'm getting just fantastic questions from you guys, a ton of engagement, just people, really involved in the program right now, which is very exciting for you guys. It makes me excited for you because I know that you're really giving it your all. And even if you're struggling or having whatever issues you're having, and some people are having some issues or concerns with the food part during week 2, but you're still going strong, and that is awesome. So I'm very excited about that. So the first thing that I wanted to go over real quick is a question that came in about genetically modified foods and knowing how to distinguish between foods that are GMO and foods that are non-GMO, what's safe and what's not. So that's the first thing that I wanted to address. There, if you actually go, and this was part of my response when this person had this question, was that if you actually go to Module 1, you will see this article that I wrote on genetically modified foods, and it will give you everything that you need to know about GMOs, what they are, what the concerns are with GMOs, and the concerns also with pesticides and what you can do about it, what you can do to actually avoid them or just become educated on them and make better choices for yourself. So that is the first thing that I wanted to talk to you about was GMOs. If you then go ahead and head over to Module 1, you'll find that it's in that kind of longer document. It's one of the supporting documents, and it's that longer document. You're going to be able to find it in there. You'll find everything. So basically what you need to know about genetically modified foods is that in the 1990s, they became somewhat widespread in the US. They came about when basically the food industry wanted to not have to use pesticides, and when they started inserting DNA from bacteria and viruses and other plants and animals to food. In order to, change it up or for it not to require the use of pesticides or whatever it was. So this was, these were experimental combinations of genes from different species that cannot occur naturally in nature or in traditional crossbreeding. So these happen in a lab. There have not been any studies, any long-term studies of the use of genetically modified foods in people. And so it's really unknown what they do. However, we are starting to see now the effects of the use of genetically modified foods. They can be very inflammatory, they can be carcinogenic, they cause changes in our DNA. So it's a good idea as much as possible to stay away from them, which can be a bit of a challenge because they are in everything almost that we eat. And a lot of people may think, well, I don't really eat that, I'm very cautious about what I eat. But the fact is that genetically modified foods sneak into almost everything that we eat. So the main genetically modified food crops or products include corn and all of its derivatives. So corn syrups, corn chips, tortilla chips, corn flour. High fructose corn syrup is nearly in everything that's packaged and processed. It's in sodas, cereals, cookies, pastries, even some dairy products, ketchup, bread. So it's a really good idea as you become more familiar with GMOs to become an avid label reader and just your own advocate. So when you're out there in your grocery store and you're shopping, it's important that you really, learn how to identify these ingredients in labels so that you are choosing, making just better or different choices. Generally, it's a great idea. I heard this before a while ago from one of my teachers, that when you go to the grocery store, it's a great idea to stay like around the perimeter of the store. So, the produce section, and then some of the, some of the items in the refrigerated section and stuff like that, but generally try to avoid like the center aisles because that's where things are the most processed and packaged. So the more like alive and, greener foods and whole foods that you can find, the better. Okay, so corn usually is genetically modified in the US mostly, although it's also widespread in many other countries, but in the US, about 95% of corn is genetically modified. Soy is also genetically modified. So anything, obviously, with soy milk, soy sauce, and edamame, which is soybeans on the pod, soybean oil, and a lot of the oils that are used in restaurants are also soybean. They're made with soybeans. So I would generally try to stay away from those. Canola oil is also very, very, very popular. It's mainly used in all restaurants, and that's another type of genetically modified organism. So I would greatly recommend staying away from canola oil and maybe sticking to more natural, life-sustaining oils like coconut oil, olive oil, sunflower seed oil can be used for some things. But mostly coconut oil is a fantastic, fantastic oil that I really recommend using, as well as olive oil, which you should not heat. So if you need to heat something or cook, then I would recommend using coconut oil. Dairy, eggs, and meat are not necessarily genetically modified themselves. However, most cows and pigs and these animals in industrial farming are being fed an all GMO diet of corn and soy. So this has the same effect as eating corn or soy yourself. So I recommend, if you're going to eat any meat, to choose certified organic pasture-raised meats and dairy products, because many of these products say explicitly that no corn or soy was used in the animal feed. Cottonseed is also edible, and it's also GMO for the most part in the US. So you can also find that in different packaged products, in oils and things like that. So that's another thing to keep in mind. Aspartame, like a lot of other artificial sweeteners, is also made with artificial ingredients and also with bacteria that has been infused in there. So you want to stay away from that. Papayas from Hawaii, alfalfa, some zucchini varieties, and many nutritional supplements that use corn or soy also should be avoided as much as possible. So those are the genetically modified foods that you will find out in your grocery stores and that you are probably consuming now. So again, I recommend, if you have questions about GMOs, going back to module 1 to the GMO section, where it will really explain to you in depth. It'll go over this list that I just went over, and it'll also explain to you in depth what GMOs are, what the concerns are, what the links are to pesticides, and why this is potentially an issue, and what you can do about it, what the alternatives are. So that is the first question that I wanted to go over. And then I also got actually a couple of questions about toothpaste. Not sure what you can find in terms of toothpaste if you don't want something that has fluoride, which actually fluoride affects your brain in a couple of different ways. And it also affects other glands in the body and the thyroid. So as much as possible, I suggest staying away from fluoride. And there's different brands out there. Tom's has a good brand. Mostly if you want to stay away from, things like, just the regular products out there, kind of like Colgate and Crest, and those, they will have the ingredient list and you can see what's in it. If you go to specialty stores or something like Whole Foods, or even online to Amazon, you can find fluoride-free toothpaste. There's also, as by now I'm a huge fan of oils. So with some of these companies that produce the essential oils, like the one that I represent, Young Living, they also have different choices for toothpaste that do not use any of these chemicals, and use a lot of essential oils to clean your mouth and just give you, just a healthier mouth in general. So I would also suggest looking into that if you want to use a different kind of toothpaste. So just make sure that there is no fluoride, and if possible, also no carrageenan. Carrageenan is a natural ingredient. It's derived from seaweed. So even though it's natural, it's also not very good for human consumption. It has been known to cause some digestive issues as well as certain types of cancer over time. So as much as possible, I recommend staying away from fluoride and carrageenan in your toothpaste. All right, so that is question number 2. I'm actually going to just take a second here and go back to the Q&A section. And see if there's anything here. Okay. But I don't see anything here. All right, and I will move on to the next question. When it comes to the different types of milks, what kind of milk do I recommend, and what seems to be a better choice if we're staying away from dairy? There's obviously a lot out there. There's, of course, dairy milk, which, so many of us grew up drinking. And we find that, there's some issues with allergies and sensitivities, more mucus production, and a lot of people having a reaction to dairy. So generally speaking, also the way that dairy milk is produced, it can be very dirty. It can have a lot of infections and bacteria and viruses. So I would typically recommend not necessarily drinking a lot of dairy milk if you can avoid it. Another kind of milk that I think is much healthier for you and much better for you, there's actually a few options, and it greatly depends on what you like and your own preferences. Almond milk, a lot of people are very familiar with almond milk. It's a great milk. It's got a great texture, and it's fairly low in sugar, and you can also get it sugar-free. So yes, almond milk is one option. Coconut milk is another option. I personally don't like the taste of coconut milk as much, but there's some out there that are really great alternatives as well. And then the third one would be hemp milk. Hemp milk is a little bit fattier. It has a higher fat content and lower sugar. So if you want to do no sugar or lower sugar, or in higher fat, kind of like a paleo kind of diet, that's another great alternative for you if you want to do that. I would stay away from soy milk as much as possible. It's very, very, very processed, and soy in that particular state is not really recommended for people. I don't really recommend soy products very much. Some people can tolerate them better than others, but as much as possible, if you can choose something else like almond or coconut milk, I would recommend that over soy. There are some concerns, and again, these are debates. There's a lot of opinions out there. I personally think that soy is not a health food. And that it should be avoided. If you are ever going to have any soy products, they should be fermented. Like tempeh, for example, is a type of fermented soy, or miso. That's another type of fermented soy. But actually, one of the worst and most processed types of soy that you can have are tofu and soy milk. So I would really recommend other options for your milk if that's available to you. All right, another question that I got was about baking soda. Is baking soda the same as baking powder? And I made a note in the module this week about aluminum. So what are they the same thing? Can I get the same? And what's the deal with aluminum? So baking soda is not the same as baking powder. They're chemically different. So baking soda is only sodium bicarbonate. That's all that it is. Baking powder, and like for cooking and everything, they have, they rise and they have a leavening effect and all of that, both of them. But baking soda is basically just sodium bicarbonate. Baking powder, on the other hand, is sodium bicarbonate combined with other things. That could include cornstarch, for example. And if we generally want to stay away from corn, then we would stay away, from baking powder. And that's where certain ingredients that have aluminum could be added, is to the baking powder. If you stick to, just a clean source of baking soda, and some baking sodas will specifically say on the label, this product does not contain aluminum. If it's a baking soda, it shouldn't contain any aluminum because it's only sodium bicarbonate. Whereas if it's baking powder, then chances are that it will. Or it could potentially. So that's why it's a better idea to stick to baking soda. But that was a really, really good question and a very good distinction. So thank you for that question. All right, let me go back here to questions real quick. What we got? All right, there is. Alrighty, let me see this real quick. Because there is another person trying to get in and they can't. All right, and I will get back to you guys in just 1 second. All right. So let's get back here for a second. Okay, awesome. There was a question, it was a really great question too, that came up about week 2 about essential oils with stress and anxiety and insomnia and, just not being able to sleep. And and the question was I've struggled with anxiety for many years. I feel very stressed out generally, and I just can't sleep. And when I sleep very little and in a very interrupted way. So can essential oils help for this? Absolutely, they can. I really recommend going back to your essential oils bonus, which is in all of the pages. So whether you're in the homepage or if you're in one of the modules, you can download that guide. And it'll tell you specifically how to take every oil, whether it can be taken internally, which I typically don't recommend very much. Just go ahead and refer to the list. For starters, always use it topically, or you can diffuse. But I would definitely not recommend ingesting oils right away, and definitely keeping to the instructions on the label for sure. But yeah, so for stress and anxiety and insomnia, there's a couple of oils from that list that are fantastic. Lavender is an adaptogenic, so it can be, if you're stressed out and, just feeling anxious, it'll calm down your nervous system. But at the same time, let's say in the morning, you're kind of groggy, you're tired, and you're not feeling, 100%. Basically, you're ready to have some coffee. If you use lavender in the morning, it'll also energize you. So yeah, lavender is an adaptogenic, and it'll work and adapt, with your system and work with your nervous system. So it's a really great oil. That's one of those oils that when you get started with essential oils, lavender is kind of like a must-have. And lemongrass is really great for stress and anxiety in general. So it's just great to calm down your system and get you ready to go to bed. So this question was asked in response to the detox baths. So these are two oils that are great to add to your detox bath. You can go ahead and add that to your what's the word that I'm looking for right now? To your magnesium. When you're making your bath and everything, you can just add it to your magnesium, your Epsom salts. There you go, the Epsom salts, and there you have it. Put in some lavender and some lemongrass, and you will be able to have a really great night's sleep, or at least much better than you normally would. There's also another great oil for sleep that's called Rudavela. It's actually, and this is a Young Living oil. So if you use different types of oils and another company, then I'm sure that they have also some alternatives, and it's a matter of doing a little bit of research. But the oils that I use are Young Living, and I swear by this oil. This oil is a blend. It's got some lavender, some chamomile, and some other oils in it. It's a really great blend to basically just put you to sleep. If you are struggling with sleep pretty consistently, and we're trying to get you back on a schedule where you sleep longer and you sleep better, and you're using oils and you're doing your detox baths, and you're eating better and all of these things, and you're still not sleeping so well, I do recommend taking a little bit of melatonin at night for a short time. I wouldn't use this long term, and the reason why I wouldn't recommend using melatonin for a long time, just like anything, your body will get used to it. And so your body, it can get a little lazy at times, and it may just kind of say, well, you're giving me this melatonin, just like it happens with many other products or supplements and things like that. Well, you're giving me this, I don't need to produce it myself. So then all of a sudden, something that may have been corrected in another way, then you actually have a real issue, because your body's not producing the melatonin that it needs to actually help you to go to sleep and stay asleep at night. So you don't want to become dependent on it. So I would only use it either, during specific periods of stress, or periods of, something happening where you feel that you really need it. Or if you're trying to get back on a schedule and you're regulating other things, and in the meantime you want to prolong the time that you're sleeping and get better sleep, then I would go ahead and go for a little bit of melatonin. Melatonin you can get in different places. Dr. Mercola, if you go to Mercola.com, he's got a great melatonin product, and you can actually get them in many other places as well, pharmacies. and all of that. I would just make sure that there's no added preservatives or, just anything chemical other than melatonin in there. All right. So that is what I have to say about sleep. Another thing too for sleep that I want to add is, if you feel that you're waking up a lot during the night, and you're having a hard time staying asleep in the middle of the night or in the night, just go ahead and take a little bit of honey. I believe I mentioned this in another video or other instructions, but go ahead and take like about a teaspoon of honey and mix it with some cinnamon. And this will make this nice little paste. Take that before bed, and it will also help you to fall asleep and then stay asleep longer. The reason why this works is because it actually helps to keep your blood sugar stable overnight, and it also really calms down your immune system. So try it and see if you can make it. If you can make the honey that you buy raw and local, because it's going to have a lot more properties that work specifically for you. Honey is great for your immune system. So if it's a local honey, then it's going to have a lot more properties that are going to be great specifically for you. So a little honey and cinnamon before bed are also fantastic for nighttime. About makeup, somebody was also saying that they use this brand. I'm not going to mention the brand, but they use this one brand and they absolutely love it. It's a fantastic brand. It's really great. Will there be some concerns and issues with the specific, that specific brand? And I didn't necessarily research this brand, but typically more commercial brands will use these ingredients like parabens and like talc, that, as we know from the module, have a lot of adverse effects for our health. So there's a ton of new makeup companies out there right now that are organic, they're all natural, and they're local. So I really encourage you to look this up. You can just Google different companies that are local and that use organic ingredients, and give them a try. I have been cleaning up my makeup bag for a while, and I know that it's expensive. It can definitely, get a little out there in terms of expense if you try to change everything up, but it really is worth it, because everything that we put on our bodies and on our skin gets absorbed into our bloodstream almost immediately. So I encourage you to start slowly. Start by buying creams and things like that don't have parabens, that don't have SLS, that don't have the pH phthalates, and become familiar with that. So start slowly and start making gradual changes. Burt's Bees, for example, pretty easy to get at pharmacies and grocery stores all over. Not sure how it is, overseas, but at least in the States, it's pretty easy to get Burt's Bees. And they have a line of makeup as well, which it's fairly inexpensive. And that's a way that you can get started with exchanging some of your makeup items. But that's more like a mid to long-term kind of project, but it's just something to keep in mind because it is important to make sure that the things that you're putting on your body are also, as clean as possible. Another great question, I love this question, was about parabens. Are there, like, what does it actually say? Are they listed on ingredient lists? And yes, they are. They are listed on creams, lotions, shampoos, etc. And for some reason, they're usually towards the end of the ingredient list. So I would go ahead and take a look at that ingredient list. It's never just going to say paraben by itself. There's actually 5 different kinds of parabens, but they're really easy to identify because they all end in paraben. So I'm going to attempt to pronounce some of these: methylparaben, ethylparaben, propylparaben, butylparaben, and benzylparaben. And then there's another one that's harder to pronounce. But you'll see these listed in all kinds of products, personal care products. So yeah, I really encourage you, next time you go to a grocery store and you're looking for, shampoo, and all these other products, to go ahead and print out the list that I gave you, and then compare it and see if there's parabens and like I said, SLS and pH phthalates and all of these other ingredients that we want to try to avoid as much as possible. And again, I really hope that you've been checking out the natural recipe list that I gave you this module, because you're going to find a variety of different products that for personal care that are absolutely fantastic, effective, cheaper in the long run to make, and they're absolutely great and a fantastic alternative to these more chemical products. I have a couple more questions left. Hold on, I want to get back here and see if there are other questions. Okay, so I have a couple more. Okay, yes. So for produce, how do you wash it? How do you make sure that it's clean? There's all these fancy, expensive produce washes out there. Are they really necessary? If you get your produce organic, then for the most part, it should be okay to just give them a quick rinse and go ahead and start cooking with them and start using them. For things that are not in produce that is not organic, I would use distilled water and vinegar. You can put them in a spray bottle and go ahead and clean them, or you can also just spray them, whatever, wash them real well and then go ahead and rinse them, and you can start using them right away. Another thing that you could do is you can use half a cup of Epsom salt and a half a cup of white vinegar, and for every liter of water, so it's it's quite a bit, and you can soak your produce in that mixture of Epsom salt and vinegar for about 20 minutes. It's very, very, very effective, and it removes pesticides, obviously dirt and parasites and other things that you don't want on your produce. So this is very effective, especially if whatever you happen to get is not organic. However, if you do get produce that isn't organic, that's fine. There's certain things that don't necessarily need to be organic. There's some other ones that definitely should be, like apples, and you can refer back to your list of the clean 15 and the dirty dozen, and that's a list that comes out every year. The Environmental Working Group puts out this list, so you can see what it was. You have the latest one in your welcome module, so you'll be able to find that there. So there's some things that definitely you want to always have organic, but then there's some other ones like avocados where it's really not that important. However, if you have something else, like, I don't know, let's say celery or just other produce that isn't organic, it's great to use this method to clean it up as much as you can, and whatever, then use it normally. But the thing about pesticides is that when these crops are, growing and all of that, and they're being sprayed with the pesticides, it's not just the outside that's being sprayed. The soil is being sprayed as well. And so the nutrients, when the plant is absorbing the nutrients from the soil, is also absorbing the pesticides directly into the plant. So you want to be, mindful of that, and know that by washing it really well, it's not like you're getting rid of all of the pesticides and the chemicals that are going into the soil, because they're also inside of the plant. So that's just something to keep in mind as well. Those are the questions that I have for now. I have not gotten anything else. I got a couple as we were here on the call, but I haven't gotten any more. So I know that this module is it's a lot of information. I know that this is the core detox week. I thought we might get actually a few more questions about the food part, but I know that we also went over a lot with home and body care. So I definitely want to, just congratulate you and honor the fact that you really paid, just were very committed to this week. And I definitely get that from the kinds of questions that I got and the comments and the feedback. So if there's anything else that you want to ask me, go ahead and send me an email or send me a Facebook message and let me know. I will be happy to answer your questions. Especially if you are having some issues with the nutrition piece, which is, this is the core week. This is really kind of like the nitty gritty of your detox in terms of the nutrition part. So I am happy to, support you and help you in any way that I can, and also answer any other questions that you have here the rest of the week. So if there's no other questions, I will go ahead and let you all go to enjoy the rest of your evening. And thank you very, very, very much for your attention, for being here, and also for, continuing to honor yourself and to do the program, which I cannot wait to hear the feedback from you in ways that, you have been making changes and things that you've seen that are improving. I cannot wait to hear from you. And also just at the end of the program, in about a week and a half, just know how things are changing and moving along for you. So keep the questions coming, keep the feedback coming, and I will see you all next week. So thank you so much and have a fantastic rest of your week and a great night. Bye-bye.